I am free to live my life in the daylight and never have to hide again. I never wanna go back. I wanna live in your light, wanna live in your light. I wanna live in your light, and in the darkest night, all I wanna see is you. Pull me back, yeah. Pull me back, yeah, yeah. Pull me back. All I wanna see is you. Pull me back, yeah. Pull me back, yeah, yeah. Pull me back. All I wanna see is you. Don't wanna trust myself, 'cause we both already know how it ends. Yeah, we know it all too well. So I'm letting go and following your footsteps off into the sunset, leaving behind the past. We could start again and live a life where every sorrow was a memory, fading out the night. I'm running to the dawn, 'cause I wanna live in your light, wanna live in your light. Oh, I wanna live in your light, in the darkest night. All I wanna see is you. Pull me back, yeah. Pull me back, yeah, yeah. Pull me back. All I wanna see is you. Pull me back, yeah. Pull me back, yeah, yeah. Pull me back. All I wanna see is you.
I'm alone in the dark, can I be where you are? You were gone from the start, now you tear me apart. I gave you my trust, but you treated me like I couldn't see. I thought you were the one, but I know that I'll never be the girl that you need. You need. You would feel the same if you were at the back of her mind. Suddenly the rain has wiped away the dust from my eyes. I'm alone in the dark, can I be where you are? You were gone from the start, now you tear me apart. I gave you my trust, but you treated me like I couldn't see. I thought you were the one, but I know that I'll never be the girl that you need. You need. You would feel the same if you were at the back of her mind. Suddenly the rain has wiped away the dust from my eyes. I'm alone in the dark, can I be where you are? You were gone from the start, now you tear me apart. I gave you my trust, but you treated me like I couldn't see. I thought you were the one, but I know that I'll never be the girl that you need. You need. You feel the same if you were at the back of her mind. Suddenly the rain
You're the life of the party, I guess. You crave all that attention. Where is everyone when it all ends? Always seems to be the question. I know you like to show it off. It's okay if it's fun, but it's not. Cause you talk about yourself too much, and people go away, they're not insane. As you think, oh no, I walk away, but I ain't losing. Oh no, I'm tired of people trying to fool me. Cause I learned the price of love. Don't give away anymore that easily. I just wanna level up. Cause I'm stronger than I was, not the strongest that I can be. Cause I'm stronger than I was, not the strongest that I can be. Here you are, you got so much to say. They want me to pay attention, but never ask me if I wanna stay. Word after word, I feel the rising tension. But you wanna open up. Oh, it's okay if it's fun, but it's not. Cause I don't really wanna talk. No wonder why you're alone. I let you to go. Oh no, I walk away, but I ain't losing. Oh no, I'm tired of people trying to fool me. Cause I learned the price of love. Don't give away anymore that easily. I just wanna level up. Cause I'm stronger than I was, not the strongest that I can be.
Okay. Good luck, everybody.
Good evening. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Thank you so much for joining us on this first edition of Evolution by Figaro. My name is Stefan Dyer, and I will be your host for this event. I'm very excited. We got Karan, we got Anna, we got Ariel. I'm very excited. And Evolution is about transforming. It's about informing people, and we're very excited. Whatever your role is, whatever stage you're right now, we hope that you will come out fresh with ideas, with new perspectives, with strategies, so that hopefully you can be more successful in your e-commerce business. Before we start, I just want to give you an idea of what this will be like, the format. So we will start off with a few moments for each of the panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a bit about themselves, their story, how they got here. And then we're going to go on to more relevant things in terms of COVID recommendations. How can we transition so that we don't get caught, we don't fall behind? And then we'll open the floor to some questions, some Q&A. But I see a lot of people commenting on the YouTube stream here and on all the streams. We got Iconic Presence, we got Satish, we got Ambrose Palmer. So keep those questions coming, because the whole idea is that we make this interactive so that it's like a conversation. Before we start, I also want to recognize Figaro. This event is possible, obviously, thanks to Figaro, the leading all-in-one platform for SMEs in the region with over 11,000, yes, you heard it right, my friends, 11,000 registered users in more than 30 countries. Figaro, an e-commerce generator, offers all the necessary tools so that you can sell online, automate your billing, and simplify your accounting. That's pretty good. Simplifying the accounting, it's key. Don't forget to sign up at figaro.com to receive not one, ladies and gentlemen, not half, but 2 months completely free of charge with no commitment. Isn't it just beautiful? I'm very excited. Keep those comments coming. I see people commenting, and we want to start it up by introducing our panelists, our people here. Say hi, Ariel, Anna, Kiran. Say hi. We're connecting. This is the beauty about the internet, ladies and gentlemen. We're just saying hi. Everyone is in a different part. Ladies and gentlemen, please. I don't want to do the honors because I want you guys to introduce yourselves. So before we go into your stories, I just want 10 or 15 seconds about what you do, what are your companies. So please, Ana Laura Mora, joining us right now from Costa Rica. Tell us a bit about yourself in about 15 to 20 seconds. Then we'll go to Karan, then we'll go to Ariel, and then we'll jump into the stories.
Okay, cool. My name is Ana Mora, and I am the PM and manager of Rice Creative Agency, and also I'm a consultant independently as analauramora.com. I work everything digital marketing everywhere in English and Spanish.
Amazing, bilingual. That's very key. And I went on Ana Laura's LinkedIn profile, and it was pretty impressive. I also went on her websites.
I'm a total LinkedIn nerd, I gotta say.
Yeah. I saw that you're a pretty big Simon Sinek fan, and so am I.
Very much. We're gonna be business partners one day. He'll see.
Yes. Start with Why. Great book. I have it right here, and I see that Karan has a whole library behind him as well. Karan, tell us a little bit about yourself in about 20 seconds, and then we'll jump into the stories.
No problem. I got the Simon Sinek book right behind me too.
Yes.
So my name is Karen Rose. I moved out to Trinidad, and I am now one of the top tech bloggers and online business educators in the region. My business is Droid Island. I started off, just teaching and educating on smartphones, and that turned into a passion for online business. And you can find out more about those tech blogs and my business blogs on KarenRose.com and DroidIslandTT.com.
I love it. I also studied Karan on his Instagram, on his LinkedIn and Instagram pretty good, and I saw Toronto Blue Jays fan, and he's also pretty popular on social media. You're pretty cool. I saw your online business educator. Pretty cool
Yeah.
profiles, pretty good articles that you're doing. And now we're
Thank you.
going off to Ariel, who I had the pleasure of studying with here in Toronto. A lot of things in common between all of us. Ana Laura and Ariel are Costa Ricans. I am Costa Rican, but we met in Toronto, and then Keron lived in Toronto most of his life before going to Trinidad. So a lot of common things here. Ariel, tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into the stories.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining. So I'm Ariel. I'm the founder and co-CEO at Figaro. I'm a passionate entrepreneur, started since I was in college, actually, trying to set up a business from abroad. It was almost impossible, but it was really cool and a nice experience. Passionate eater, lover chocolate. And I've been dedicating my life for the past 5 years to get technology throughout our region. So I never understood why Canada, US had amazing technology, but for us here in Central America and the Caribbean was almost impossible. It was kind of like a dream. So myself and my brother, we made it our mission to bring that technology here and make it accessible to everybody. And that has gotten us to today, the first edition of Evolution. So I'm very thankful to everybody joining us, Karen, Anna, Stefan, and every one of you guys joining over the live streaming. Thank you very much for joining and look forward to this great event and panels.
Thank you. Yes, well, I saw Ariel when we were in university here, and he was always working, always creating, just a very creative guy. So I'm happy that we joined forces here years later. So now we're gonna jump into the stories. How did you get started? Who are you? Why are you here? Who gave you the link to join this meeting? Why do you have such cool profile pictures for the flyers? So we're gonna start off with Ana Laura, obviously an avid Simon Sinek fan. I saw that you
Cool.
have a digital content platform that talks about women's health and sports. And but you can talk about that. But how did you get started in this? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a full-blown millennial, so of course I was dreaming of starting a company since I was in high school.
Yes.
I've done several different failed attempts to do so, and I've had several different businesses ranging from a wedding planning event that I did over 60 weddings in a couple of years.
Wow.
I've had several different weird entrepreneurship situations. Like also, I had a wedding blog that became pretty successful here in Costa Rica for a while. As well, I have a master's in entrepreneurship and innovation, and that has helped me also reach out to a lot of people here locally and support them in their process of entrepreneurship. And of course, with my marketing specialty, that has helped me like work around that with the purpose of whatever they're doing. So pretty much it was very funny for me to meet Ariel, because when we met, I told him like, I can't believe that we've been struggling so much with e-commerce, and finally you guys have nailed it. You guys have finally come up with a solution, and this is just going to change the game for everybody who's working online. So my passion is all about that, about being more efficient, about bringing more value, about making sure that we understand what our users need. And this is pretty much the reason that pretty much has gotten me here in every way. Like all the roads lead to Rome. And well, I guess that the whole digital part of business is Rome, at least right now.
I love
Literally
it.
it
I love.
is though.
Yes. I mean, it's good that we're doing this. Obviously, during COVID times, obviously it's not over, and it's fantastic that we got so many people on the call, almost 60 people right now, because you guys are the subject matter experts, and even I'm learning here on how to adjust, and hopefully we don't fall behind. I think a lot of us depend on in-person industries, and hopefully with your advice, even for the people that know a lot, they can learn today. But for the people who are rookies like me, they can learn at least one thing that'll get them closer to have this additional revenue stream that could be e-commerce. So that this is fantastic. I've been reading a lot over the last day, and I'm impressed with your knowledge. Karan, tell us how you went from this journey from Canada. And I know you studied in Seneca,
Yeah.
Toronto represent. You worked You worked at
All
Rogers.
those
You
Blue
worked at
Jays.
Aegon. You were many different places. How did it take you to Trinidad? And I know that you're very passionate about um, helping entrepreneurs in the Caribbean and SMEs to not fall behind. And
Yeah.
I read in your LinkedIn and your IG that you want to make sure that if a second wave of coronavirus hits, you want to make sure that people are ready,
Yes, for
especially
sure.
when it comes to e-commerce. So tell us a little
For
bit about
sure.
that.
So I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. I spent a beautiful, excellent 2 weeks before we moved to Toronto. And I lived in Toronto for 28 years. So all of my schooling, everything was done in Toronto. And then I just got to a point where in Toronto, I felt like I was stuck. We grew up with this knowledge of a system that no longer works. And for us millennials coming up, we just feel trapped. So the end of 2013, I was either thinking, you know what, I need a change of pace. I could either move out to Alberta, go work in the oil fields, and you guys know how that is. It's 14 days on, 5 days off, like, madness. And then minus 30-degree weather. So I was like, you know what? Because I was born here, I'm a dual citizen. So I'm like, let me go try Trinidad. Let me go see what's happening in the Caribbean. I'll go out there, probably live here for a year, 2 years, relax, just reconnect. And the timing of the move was perfect. So when I moved here, relaxed for a bit, and I realized I seen a gap. So coming from Toronto, where I've been working at TELUS, Rogers Communications, I worked at Apple. I've been in tech and mobile technology since I was 19. So when I moved to Trinidad, I walked into one of our telecommunication stores and I was just listening to one of the sales reps. And the sales rep was trying to sell a Samsung S4 at the time. And they told the customer, yes, the phone is waterproof. You could take it underwater. You can go find Nemo with the phone. And it was like, this is insane, right? And when you walk into an Apple store, Rogers, TELUS, everybody is on the ball because the
Yes.
technology is our tools to do whatever we need to do. So we've always treated it with the utmost respect, right? So when I came here and I realized, wait a minute, like you walk into these stores, people are just saying whatever they want to sell the devices. And people are not using technology to the best of their efforts because there's nowhere to learn about the technology. We can walk into Apple and learn. They have workshops. We can walk into
Yes.
TELUS. They have classes. We don't have that. So I decided, you know what, let me start a blog. And in order for me to start a blog, I didn't know nothing about blogging. I had to learn how to build websites. I had to learn how to
Yes.
get people to find it and learn SEO. I had to learn how to create content. And, kind of fast forward a couple of years, where I started that business in 2016, I had picked up a bunch of skills. And what has helped me is that I learned, being from Toronto, everything that we want doesn't work the same way in Trinidad. So I had to
Yes.
find, what is the equivalent to PayPal? What is the equivalent to everything? Even our banks, RBC, Scotiabank, CIBC, we have all the Canadian banks here in Trinidad, but none of them work the same way. So in me having to constantly figure out how things work, and the fact that there is no place for you to learn how the technology works, I decided to create Droid Island to teach on smartphone tech. And then I created KarenRose.com to kind of talk about my entrepreneurship journey, but then teach people how to use the technology available to us to build our business, just as how I had to kind of figure it out. And that's really what has brought me to this point. It is just really the mindset of, I've learned all of this. Let me share it because there is no other place for you to go and learn it. And let me just spearhead that. And here's where we are now.
I love it. I love it. I find it really cool that you learned a lot of things here in Toronto, and then you want to go teach your fellow Trinis. I can't imagine when you went there in 2013. They were like, you can download Napster, ICQ, High Five.
Man, it was
Yeah.
culture shock. Just logging into Netflix and I'm seeing Netflix buffering. I've never seen Netflix buffer ever until I moved here, you know. So a lot's changed,
Buffers
a
in
lot's
Costa
changed.
Rica. It buffers here. It's very sad.
Oh Lord.
You're like, Ma, don't use the phone. I'm trying to go on Netflix.
And the worst part is when it just gets to like 99 and it never moves from there. It's horrible.
Oh God, we got challenges. We definitely have challenges.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Thanks for that, Karan. We got a comment here by K-Man Coco saying, I love the Toronto telco connection and the Caribbean. I'm also from Toronto, over 13 years in telco now, live in the Cayman Islands. Thank you. Thank you for the comments. Keep them coming.
I love
And
it.
this is great. This is great because we're sharing the knowledge, and I think you guys are trailblazers, man. You're opening gateways for other people to do it as well, and directly and indirectly you're helping people be more profitable because, like I said, even if they can learn one thing that'll get them closer to another revenue stream, people that were 40, 60 years doing it on the streets, and now I think with not that many hours invested, you can learn, and it could have a tremendous impact in your income stream and in your family. I saw many years ago Ariel working the apps, very creative, very curious, and now look, he's the co-CEO of Figaro. He's doing great things. Ariel, tell us a bit about yourself. I know you studied at York University here in Toronto, and you partnered up with your brother, and you've been doing great things in Costa Rica. How have these past 5 years been for you?
All right, it's been a long wait, but it's been very interesting. So actually, very close to the weekend we met. I think it was your birthday or something like that. Uh, I was just about starting to realize about Uber's existence in Toronto. So the whole taxi hailing app ecosystem. So right about that time, I started developing like kind of like a sense that I needed to do something. And the trigger for that was actually that just as soon as I got to York, I received an email by mistake inviting me to a position on IBM as an engineer. And I had no clue about nothing. I didn't understand why I was being invited to that position, but I still accepted the interview. So I met with the lady that she started interviewing me, and uh, all the questions I knew from my classes. I knew the theory, but I had no idea on how to program that or how to code it or do nothing. So that intrigued me, and I said, like, hey, like I'm already of age. I can start doing something. I can get a job or start my own business. So I started looking into what to do, and one of the key things that made my mind was the issue of transportation. So Uber and the taxi apps in Toronto were becoming kind of like mainstream, and I was like, well, in Costa Rica, every time we go out or need something, you hail a cab and it's a nightmare. You have to call. It takes for ages, or you don't get to see them ever. So we started a taxi business app. It took us about a year. Uh, we got a lot of taxi drivers in Costa Rica and Panama, but that never actually took off. So there was payment issues, so you couldn't get a bank to connect to an app. You couldn't actually get the whole experience you had in the States. So we actually ended up dropping it. It didn't work as a business. And then we decided to start our own developer shop. So we started kind of like a custom software developer agency, doing like websites and specializing on software automation for multinational companies, trying to get them on a full spectrum website with a backend system to get all the processes better and faster. And as soon as we started that, our customers started to actually request marketing services from us. They said, we love how you guys are approaching us, how you are sending out the emails and pulling us into your company. We want you to do the same. So we actually started doing marketing for them. And along the way, every single customer we spoke to, we asked about their issues, how to automate their processes, how the software can improve that. And the recurrent issue was invoicing. How can I charge my customers? How can I get my processes automated? and most of them didn't want to pay what a custom development would work, like a full invoicing system, full invoicing, an e-commerce web store. So we decided to build up our own solution that actually was used by ourselves at first. So that was how Figure was born. And since then, we have been dedicating ourselves to that, and growing it, and taking in comments from people and how they can use it and how it can better their business with automation and e-commerce tools, until we became kind of like an all-in-one e-commerce solution, ranging from invoicing, accounting, to basically coaching people. And we created the program E-commerce in a Box, together with DHL and First Land E-commerce, to try to bring all these things together. So all the gaps that we were looking at, so software, training, marketing, and e-commerce into one single place. And here's where we are at Evolution.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Well, you certainly have done an amazing job because you have over 11,000 registered users in 30 countries. That's pretty good. I have here, I did a little bit of research on Figaro. Obviously, I had to. So, yeah, you have the invoicing, the accounting, the reports, the payment buttons. I'm not reading this. The web store builder, the integrated payment gateway, logistics. You got, I mean, I think it's necessary because, for example, I'm an entrepreneur and I have a public speaking and comedy school. I'm a stand-up comedian. And since we tour, we've toured 15 countries, and now we're starting to sell merch. But we only did it in shows. But now, like, it's good that we talked to Ariel a couple of days ago, because I don't even know the first step to put a store on my website, an e-commerce store on my, and then I'm like, oh, I don't, you know what? It's so hard. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it because I'd rather just I have other priorities right now. You know, it's COVID time, so then I called a friend who knows a lot more than me. I call him a hacker because he knows a little bit more than me, so I assume that he's like the genius. But now I know that I could just contact Figaro and they do all in one. And the next thing that I wanted to ask you, and I'm coming at you right now, because I know that you have a really interesting combination of you. You did a postgrad in entrepreneurship, you got the marketing, you got everything. And what tendencies, what have you seen in Costa Rica recently during COVID times where people have had to transition? What things have you seen that are happening, and what could be like 2 tips that you give people on how to transition? Because it's mind-boggling. It's intimidating sometimes.
Well, this is pretty much the reason of why we're doing this today, because it has been something that not just has happened to like one country or one place. Like, for example, in Costa Rica, we've had a very interesting evolution of what's happening with the economy. I'm going to use the word interesting because it's not always been very positive in the last, let's say, 18 months. It's been tough for many companies and small and medium businesses. However, during COVID, the most important shift was, how do I make my business, which requires me to be with my customers one on one, how do I make it something that can thrive online? How do I convert this model, and how can I change this? How can I change not just the delivery of my product, but the communication of my product, my customer service, everything to something digital? So it's been very difficult for many people who have resisted to change their model, but also it's been
Yes.
incredibly positive for all the people that have not been afraid to change their model. And the most important tendency is that the massive, like the quantic jump that people took in the last couple of months of how they're handling their business right now and how they were handling their business 6 months ago. I feel that companies are doing things right now, companies, businesses, personal brands, everybody, they're doing things right now that didn't seem feasible 6 months ago. That if you would have told your customers, I'm going to do this 6 months ago, they would have said like, no, I'm not buying from you. That's too
Yeah.
complicated. And now people are just taking the jump. So it's been actually very cool to see that evolution. And as I was mentioning, I collaborate a lot with our local commerce promoter, Procomen, and I deliver certain different webinars for them about how to do pitch and how to communicate with clients. And we've shifted along this communication on how to communicate digitally, which is something that's just going to give so much more power to companies. Because in the case of Costa Rica is a tiny country, and we offer a lot of different services like Figaro. So from our perspective, it's very important that we can deliver not just those products locally, but also those services internationally and online. So the biggest shift has been that change of mentality of people saying like, hey, I can do this. I can give this a shot. It's worth it. I'm going to do it. And just going ahead and jumping to it. So that has been a wonderful process. I think it's been the most interesting thing that we've seen. I think it also has built a lot of resilience in people. And I just think it's going to
Yes.
get like much better from here on. So that has been, from my perspective, the most amazing thing. Like that shift of let's do it. We can do it, and that has been pretty amazing.
And
Thank you.
actually, there's an interesting, sorry, but there is
Go
an
ahead. Go
interesting
ahead.
point about both you said, and there is like a breaking point that people are not sure on where to get started. Where do I get started on making my brand? How do I get started to sell online merchandise? How do I start a business? And I think that's a very important place that probably the four of us have a different point of view based of our experience. But I feel it's kind of like the main blockage people have, or the main entry barrier. People don't know where to start. They want to start a business, but they don't know where to go. Or they have their own business, but have no idea on how to evolve or transform to e-commerce or digital remote business. I don't know. What do you think?
I think resilience is a key word that you used, and on my end, I'm also seeing it that I agree with Ariel. There's a breaking point where you just have to be like, I don't know when this is ending. I don't know when it's gonna be, but even if I can go back to normal after this, I want to have an advantage, because the opportunities are infinite when you're in e-commerce. You don't have to be physically present. It's there, and it could be an amazing additional revenue stream, and it could be wonderful. Kiran, what have you seen in the Caribbean, and what tips do you have for people encountering these challenges? They don't know if they should do it. They don't know who to ask. What's a couple of tips for beginners, probably?
So we've pretty much experienced almost the exact same thing, like what's happening in Costa Rica. And one of the biggest challenges for us is that the lack of information. So if you
Yes.
want to learn, how to do it, you can't just Google it, because at the end of the day, Google isn't producing content. Google is a platform for the content. So if there isn't an institution that is putting out the content and teaching you how to do it, you're going to be lost. And it's been such a big roadblock to this point, because for me, coming from Canada, like I said before, I'm at the point where I'm at right now because I've been exposed. So I know what to look for. So when I came here, I'm always looking for what's the equivalent, or what is the process, and then seeking out the people to try to give me that answer. Because again, I can't Google the problems, and I can't Google the solutions. You're not going to find anything that's specific to Trinidad and other Caribbean islands. So that's been our biggest issue. And then when you do figure out, okay, I want to go e-commerce, now you have to start looking at what are all the mechanisms that will allow you for it. So I kind of break it down into three things, right? The three keys to e-commerce really is having an audience that has a mechanism to actually pay you. That's a huge problem for us, because the credit card penetration rate in Trinidad is 10%. Meaning, if nobody has the mechanism to pay you, then e-commerce doesn't happen, right? So just like in
Yes.
Toronto, how all of us have the Visa debit cards, we can go online and shop. We don't have that here. We have one bank that issues Visa debit cards, and they have a
Wow.
limit. They have a limit of 500 US for the month. So that's a problem. That's a huge challenge for us, right? What's happening now is, now that the banks are now switching over, so the remaining banks are switching over to Visa debit cards, because we have a foreign exchange shortage. they have restricted all of those Visa debit cards from shopping internationally. So we cannot shop outside of TT currency on these new cards being
Wow.
rolled out by the banks, right? Which means that the second issue, the second key issue is the payment processors. So we typically have two payment processors in the Caribbean: First Atlantic Commerce and WePay. First Atlantic Commerce was always seen as a payment processor for the enterprise level companies and the government companies. And because I couldn't just call into the banks and get the information I need to get set up, it just mystified the entire process even more. So that has halted more businesses from getting online and even processing the transactions, right?
Yes.
So one, if people don't have the card. Two, if businesses don't have a online process to process payments, e-commerce can happen, which leads to the third key, which is businesses being e-commerce ready. So over the last year, 2 years, again, the card situation is now starting to kind of fix itself.
Yes.
The payment processors, WePay has simplified the payment processor because they've kind of built it on top of First Atlantic Commerce, and they've simplified the KYC, the know your process, the know your customer process, to make it easier, where it's now just plug and play for certain platforms. It's now
Yes.
empowered more businesses to be able to get online and do e-commerce. But now, what is lacking, and this is where webinars like this are really helping, is the education. Now that we have the
Yes,
tools, we need the education. It's not. I mean, everything isn't how we would like it to be, but we still have what we need to at least get online, have people pay us online, and have e-commerce to happen. So these webinars are really expanding the knowledge level in the Caribbean for people to say, okay, you know what? I can do this. We have everything. I might not have had everything 3 years ago, but I have what I need right now. We just need to start to change the mindset and plant those seeds and get people thinking about e-commerce. And the one thing that COVID has done, it has forced the technology and digital revolution by force. So everybody that said, we're okay, we don't need to go online, they have to. They have to. So yeah, that's what's been happening in the Caribbean.
So not just COVID has not just forced fitness challenges on Instagram. They've also forced the e-commerce talks between everyone, and that is very positive. We're getting some great feedback here in the comments on the live, and I asked people what challenges have they encountered trying to transform their e-commerce business. And Ambrose Palmer says, COVID has made me put on online instructor-led training in a couple of weeks in order to meet the needs of my students. Kibwe Magan says, WePay exists in Trinidad and has an online wallet and options. Cayman Coco, it's also our banks in the Caribbean don't talk to e-commerce payment options. Even when we have the Visa debit, I can't even get my PayPal into my account here. I worked at DHL here in sales, had lots of customers interested in e-commerce, but was impossible to get accounts set up. We're getting a lot of comments here. Ariel, I want to open it up to you. I know that you wanted to mention something.
Yeah, definitely. So there is a very interesting thing, and it's kind of like a misconception on the tools I actually need and where do I need to get started to do an e-commerce business. So most people just end up going straight to a developer and saying, hey, I want a website. And the developer is usually kind of like a designer or a marketing agency. They don't even really know what they are doing. So they end up selling you a web store. They develop it on, I don't know, WordPress or any kind of platform. And they give you kind of like an end project and they'll leave you there. And you are like, okay, so how do I get paid now? And most people don't know about the different systems that are in place at the banks. There is no easy way of getting to them. And they end up having a web store that ran them down a few $1,000s or hundreds in a good case, and
Only a few?
basically useless. Only a few, or more than a few. And that's one of the key issues that we have tried to solve with Figaro. So you have virtual wallets in the States, kind of like Venmo. You have gateways, kind of like FAC. You have processors that work behind the banks, but not all scenarios apply to every single merchant. So, particularly for SMEs, going straight to a gateway, doing your own development, is probably going to set them down a lot of money, and it's going to become hard for them to start. So, it depends on what type of business you have, what's your backing, monetary backing, to decide which platform and which way to go. So it's important to actually get good advice on how your business is going to develop. What's the end goal of your platform? You don't need to go for a full blown website. You don't need an Amazon of yourselves, but you need to start on the at least the minimum viable product that allows you to start selling, start getting your name out, get some traffic to your website, get SEO placement on social media and search engines, and actually get kind of like a conversation going with prospective merchants. Uh, and that's one of the things we have tried to solve for. So, kind of like bringing all the gaps of the entry barriers, all the tools that you need to get started, including the gateway, the bank connections, and making it easier for you so that you can focus on your actual business and not on the platform behind. That it's different in every country, it's different for every bank, it's different for every business. So, the best advice is to actually start by learning what's available to you, what's the budget you're actually going to need. So, hiring WePay, hiring a gateway directly, or hiring a hosted e-commerce solution like Figaro, they're going to have way too different pricings. They're all different. They have different requirements, different time to go live. So, I strongly urge people to start by investigating what their payment options are, analyze and compare hosted solution versus a self-hosted solution, and from hiring a gateway directly versus hiring it via a payment facilitator kind of like WePay, or kind of like an aggregator like Figaro that brings all the tools and the contacts into one place. So it's kind of like a where to begin kind of issue that has been misinformed and misrepresented, and people need to actually start there before deciding how to go live.
Very nice, very nice. As you were talking, we got a bunch of questions coming in, so I want to direct the three most recent questions to each of you. I'm gonna go with Anna. Would this be a good option for restaurants offering takeout orders via their websites? What have you seen? What do you recommend? Jaco Lawrence official is asking.
It's a very interesting question because actually one of the companies I do most of my consulting time, which is called Benji Labs here in Costa Rica, we were working on an app for restaurants for not necessarily takeout, but actually doing orders in the place, like in the restaurant, like in situ,
Yes.
right? So we were working on that, and COVID made us do a very dramatic turn, and we needed to do a very profound pivot because the needs of people started changing, and all of a sudden, not just the needs of people, but the needs of health. So that made restaurants
Wow.
become
Yes.
very the restaurants needed to simplify their menus. They needed to change their portion sizes. They, in many cases, even have needed to change like even their pricing because all of it is changing so much and the business is changing so much that it's requiring people to start establishing different like a different playbook for their business. So I think that actually like apps like Uber or Rappi here in Latin America have actually changed the game for everything that has to do with food. But more than that, it's how can we serve the communities that are closer to us? Like if I have a restaurant and my food is going to be warm for a certain amount of time, how do I reach the people that I need to reach like quickly? So it's important, and I think that's like going back a little bit on what both Karan and Ariel were mentioning. It's about what processing methods do we have around us that are available. Can, for example, my food be packaged and can it be sold through a platform like Figaro? And maybe I'm not selling warm food right away, but I'm packaging something and selling it through e-commerce. Or am I going to use like different types of platforms or different ways of exchanging money so that I can manage whatever platforms I have in my location? So those are the first questions that they need to ask themselves. Like a restaurant needs to ask themselves in that at this moment. what do I have available for myself? What changes can I do in my business? And how I'm going to manage the logistics of delivering the final product to people. Because if we're talking for our service, I can easily go to Figaro, create my webpage, and sell my services as a product. But if I'm delivering something, there's a different process of logistics that I need to analyze and I need to think. And I think we're also going to talk a lot about that with DHL, about how the logistics go. But definitely the most important thing is like those main questions. What's the business core of my business? What do I do? And then what's the most important thing I need to deliver to people? And then start working around those specifics, like how can I pay it? Can I sell prepackaged products? Can I sell goods on a certain amount of time, etc.? And that's gonna definitely be the base to do that swap that we unfortunately all had to make. So we just
There
like
you
a
go.
little example, just to finish the phrasing, there's a business here in Costa Rica called Oliva Verde. It's a place where you like buy falafels and stuff like that. It's very yummy. And they created
Yeah.
like this secondary business called La Refri, and they're just like packaging their food and selling packaged food so that you have on your refrigerator. And I thought that was very
Amazing.
ingenious. And they did that swap. We were together in another webinar a couple of weeks ago, and it was a very ingenious way to re-engineer their business, and it was a way of selling it different. And then they build an e-commerce, and that way they simplify the process.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fascinating to see how some businesses adapt quickly, and
Yeah.
obviously some of them don't work, but when it works, it's great to see, admire, and learn. So there you go, Jaco Lawrence. I'm gonna direct this one to Karan by DJ Firestorm Music. He says he's from Trinidad. I have a Shopify store and tried using two check or credit card service to receive payments for online customers, but couldn't get approval from them. What options do I have? And you're nodding, so I can tell you have 2 cents there to throw in.
This is exactly what we've been talking about. Things don't work the way they work in other countries, right? So, people will Google. People will Google what is the best platform for products, and you will always see Shopify come up number one, right? If you're looking at just selling products, Shopify will always come up, right? However, Shopify will allow you to process your payments with PayPal, to checkout, Stripe. But the processes for us to receive the money are completely different. So, for one, to checkout, from the last time I checked, has not been approving accounts coming out of Trinidad for the last little while now. Maybe like over a year or 2 years, they haven't been approving accounts. Stripe will, if you're going to use Stripe, you'll have to set up a US bank account and run your Stripe account through that US bank account, which is its own process on its own. And then with PayPal, PayPal only deposits to Visa enabled credit cards or Visa enabled debit accounts here in Trinidad. So for us in Trinidad, you need a JMMB account or a venture credit union account if you want to receive that money from PayPal. Or if you have an actual credit card, you could deposit the funds there. But then again, if you're putting it into a credit card, you're going to be subjected to the cash advance fees and their limitations, and then you just lose more money overall. So the solution is you can use WePay, but WePay doesn't directly integrate with Shopify as yet. However, there is a company here in Trinidad called Social Pay. Social Pay has developed a solution that sits on top of WePay and integrates with Shopify. Therefore, you can process the payments on your Shopify account. And what it does is it works like a bridge. So you have your Shopify store. When they add to cart and the checkout happens, the checkout actually happens on a WordPress platform, processes the payments, and then it redirects your clients back on the Shopify platform. So you would need two accounts. You would need your WePay account, one. Then you're also going to need a Social Pay account, two. And then you would have to now, again, process all of your payments with your Social Pay account. So again, this is a popular question because when you Google, hey, I have products, I have merch. What's the best place to sell merch? You'll see Shopify. You'll get on Shopify, you'll build your site, and then realize, wait a minute, how do I even receive money? So, yeah, again, roundabout way, but you can do it.
Yeah, but
Very
there is
nice.
one thing to keep in mind. So those are all tools that are possible to get your money, but it's not the same as having your local bank integrated, because that way you're not going to only be paying for the monthly fee of Shopify and the processing fee of WePay, or monthly fee, I'm not sure exactly of the rates, and the plugin or whatever goes on top, but you'll also be paying a percentage of all your sales to Shopify. So by the end, if your products are low margin, or if you're looking to make a big business, probably half of your income is going to be going to those different service providers. So a local service option is even better because you'll get the money faster, lower rates. The only downside is that you need to do like some paperwork to set up an account, but in the Caribbean, it's actually really fast. It takes about 2 weeks in average. So there are the two worlds.
To add to what you just said, so Ariel's right. So remember, Shopify is a monthly service fee that you're paying, right? WePay charges per transaction. Social Pay charges per transaction, right? So you have three sets of fees before you even see your income. So you're going to end up having to either price your products a good bit higher to cover that, or if you're keeping the prices the same, your margins are just slimming out. So this is where when people come to me and they ask me, what's the best platform to build my business on? Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, WordPress. I don't have an issue with any platform you choose. However, from a business standpoint, it doesn't make sense to use Wix, Squarespace, Shopify because of what you need to do to go through the process, those payments, and all the money you lose. For me, it's always better to go with WordPress or a platform like Figaro because they have like WePay integrates directly with WordPress, so you're good there. You're only paying their transaction fee, and then you don't have a monthly fee for WePay. And then you have Figaro and Figaro's own built ecosystem. So those are the two better options if you're trying to sell products.
I love it. This could well be an episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We're just handing out trillionaire tips right here. Write them up. We got so many comments. I don't even know which one to pick, but I know that the one that they got a lot of replies, and I want Ariel to clarify this one. Can Figaro talk to Wix.com to see if they can integrate easily? I know it's been replied in the comments, but I just want you to clarify it because there seems to be talk about it in the comments.
All right. So Figure is actually its own ecosystem. So we're a substitute for both Shopify, Wix, Squarespace, or WordPress in a more easier fashion. So it's 2 clicks and you have your own web store launched. We have our own gateway integration. So we are already set up with all the banks and have different point of contacts to make it easier for you to set up an account and actually get a merchant account. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks in the worst case scenario. We have even seen in some countries getting it within the 5 days mark. So we have like the full spec of the service. We don't charge a percentage of sales. We just have a flat monthly fee and a per transaction fee from the gateway. So we strip out the normal gateway fees. We have a special arrangement throughout the Caribbean and allow for you to create kind of like your own web store, your own website with your own invoicing platform. And it's already connected to DHL, to your local bank, and it's everything taken care of for you. So we don't integrate to Wix. We are actually a substitute of.
Amazing. Thanks for clarifying that, because I know that there was some confusion in the comments, and it seemed to create a lot of conversation, which is good. I don't even know which question to pick, but I know we're coming to an end. So I want to ask the three of you quick question, and in terms of personal projects. Well, first of all, for question number one for Anna right now is where can they find you? Because obviously the three of you are subject matter experts, and people are still commenting on YouTube. Where can they find you? And the second question, which is one of my favorite questions for interviews, is a champagne question, and is if we were to meet a year from now with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating? So, Anna, where can they find you, and what would be something amazing that we would be celebrating in a year in terms of Ana Laura Mora projects?
Okay, so number one, you can find me at analauramora.com. That's my personal consultancy page. You can also find me at ricecreative.agency, where I run a team and we do creative work. And I'm locally right now in Costa Rica, so I'm -6 GT. We can meet anytime. I'm also on Skype, Ana Laura Mora CR. And 1 year from now, it's the most interesting question because I am doing very important changes in my life. And probably my goal, well, not probably, definitely my goal is to move to Europe or Canada in the next year,
Amazing.
due to some personal changes in my life and very positive changes, and probably moving also and opening a part of what we're doing here with the magazine for women for Eastern Europe, and also start doing some business over there. I already have some clients there in Budapest and in London and in Bulgaria, but I want to start getting more work from that side of the world as well, because the people are fascinating. The technologies they have are really, really cool. It's very interesting, but countries like Bulgaria are very similar to Costa Rica and the way that they're developing businesses and
Wow.
marketing. So probably my champagne question would be that being either in Bulgaria or in Canada, developing more business, and with my personal projects of creating and starting my own family beginning.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for sharing. Come to Canada. Come to Toronto. You can snowboard 12 months a year. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks.
Karan, where
Yo.
can we find you, and what are we celebrating if we meet a year from now with a bottle of champagne?
Yes. So for one, you guys could Google me, Karen Rose. Karen Rose everywhere. KarenRose.com,
Yes.
LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You just
Tinder.
punch in. Yes.
Hinge.
The Tinder. Yeah. It's literally Karen Rose everywhere. So if you go to KarenRose.com, you will see all of my content on online business, talking about pretty much everything that we talked about in a much more at a deeper level on my platforms. And in a year, what would we be celebrating? We would be
Yes.
celebrating season 2 of the Digital Age Online Caribbean Business Series. And we're going to be celebrating a TV deal worth a couple $1 million. We really popping champagne.
Popping bottles. Money ain't a
You know what? Yes, exactly. So if you guys are in the Caribbean, June 25th, 8 p.m., Digital Age Season 1, where we are talking about all different aspects of online business. So if you want to learn how to podcast, if you want to learn how to YouTube, if you want to learn, what you should be doing in tourism because you're a hotel business, check out that series. It's going to be talking about some amazing things from an online e-commerce business perspective.
I love it. I love it. I spent about 15 minutes on your website before this webinar, and I learned a lot. So if you haven't, go on and go to analauramora.com as well. Search them up on Tinder as well. You'll learn additional things you never know.
I'm not on Tinder. My partner.
Ana Laura Mora is not on Tinder anymore. And Ariel, same question, my friend. Where can we find you? And what are we celebrating in a year if we meet with a bottle of champagne?
Awesome. So I can be found on LinkedIn as Ariel Roch. I'm not that popular, so I don't have that many social networks yet, but I'm starting off with LinkedIn. And hopefully within the next year, we'll be celebrating here the second edition of Evolution. So we want to make this kind of like a yearly event.
Yes.
We want to grow it and make it the regional event for e-commerce, logistics, and entrepreneurship, so that we can bring and remove that gap that we used to have with North America and be able to get access to all the tools, all the speakers, all the information. And hopefully Evolution Edition 2 will be next year sometime this time. and without COVID, hopefully.
Yes, I love it. I love it. But thank you for sharing that. Well, I'm going to answer the question too, because why not? In a couple seconds. Well, you can find me on stefandire.com or Instagram, and not on Tinder, not on ICQ, not on High Five either. But you can find me mostly on Instagram, and I tour a lot to do stand-up comedy shows. So come and see me. Find me on Instagram, and I'll be celebrating. I have a 4-month baby, 4-month-old baby.
Congrats.
His name is Liam. Thank you. So in a year,
Congrats.
we'll be celebrating that I can sleep for more than 3 hours straight,
Well, we'll see
and that'll
about
be
that.
well. I know that'll be a huge win for me. I'm just very grateful that I get to spend all this time at home with him and my wife. So COVID has been very harsh in some ways, but you have to definitely see the positive and be grateful that we're healthy and that we're able to help others, especially you with e-commerce. You're empowering a lot of people and giving them hope, because a lot of people have experienced panic when this hit, and hopefully e-commerce is giving them another lifeline. So before ending the session, I want to personally thank everyone. Karan, Ana Laura, Ariel, thank you for being here. Everyone, so many questions. I think. I mean, Ariel, I know you and your brother are copying and pasting and saving these questions. This is how basic I am in terms of computers. I'm copying and pasting questions. And I had a lot of fun. I want before closing this off, I want to extend the invitation for next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m. We're going to have a guest speaker from Visa, Roberto Gaudelli, and we're going to be discussing opportunity, payment technology, e-commerce best practices, and how to apply them on your business. So stay tuned. Ariel, please correct me if I'm wrong, but is it the same Eventbrite invitation so they can log in next Wednesday?
It's a different one. So everybody needs to register for each of the dates. If they
Okay.
didn't on the first sign up, they can go back and sign up for the second day. They can do it up to a few minutes before the event time, which is going to be 7 p.m. On Wednesday.
Perfect. So sign up, because not only will you learn, you will also laugh, ladies and gentlemen. Any quick closing remarks, Karan, Ana Laura, Ariel? Couple seconds to say goodbye.
Well, just thank you to everybody who joined in. We're very excited about this project and about this webinars that we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing them both in English and Spanish. So if somebody's shy about English, we can also do it in Spanish. We're also doing it in Spanish. And we're going to be talking about the 3 pillars of being able to sell and market whatever you're doing, which is e-commerce. And then there's the part of logistics and the part of payment. So it's going to be super interesting. It was a lot of fun for me. I hope it was also for everybody who was online, and just looking forward to see what we're going to do in the next couple of events.
Yes. Karan.
From me, I just want to let everybody know that finally we can properly do e-commerce. So take advantage of it. Definitely don't let the second wave catch you slipping. The first wave caught so many of us slipping, right? But we have an opportunity now. We have a lot of the tools that we need. Yes, we know things could be better. Things don't always work the way that they need to work, but we have some real tools that you can put into place to take your business online, conduct transactions. You can get paid from anywhere in the world. You can ship your products out anywhere in the world. If you don't want to, build your own website or hire a developer, you can jump on a platform like Figaro, and they have everything that you need. Just do something. Don't stick.
Thank you. I love it. Thank you for mentioning that, because I mean, hopefully it doesn't hit, but if it does, we'll be ready. Ariel, some closing remarks?
Definitely. I'm actually very excited to see all these questions coming in and people actually interested on e-commerce, finally trying to act on it. I do encourage you to take the next few days, take advantage of all what we have discussed here. Check out some of Karen's videos. They are very informative. go online. We have also a lot of tutorials and videos explaining e-commerce on Figaro. Try to research out what do you want to do. Try to define your business so the next week we can talk about technology and you can start getting that project down to earth and make it a reality so that, as Karen was saying, when the second wave hits, you will be prepared. You will have an e-commerce business that it won't only be for COVID-19 crisis, but it will be for a long time, hopefully. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you, Karen, Anna, Stefan, and everybody who tuned in. I'm very happy for this event and look forward for next week.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for
This has
having us.
been. Thank you. This has been the first edition of Evolution by Figaro. Thanks again. You can catch Karan on his website, and Laura on her website, Ariel on his website, and you can catch me on Napster. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Good evening, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Goodbye.
Thank you.
I'm not sure what happens now, if it closes by itself, if your brother is doing it, if people will see us continuing.